humbly welcome our first speaker for today's summit, Mr. Joel Deque. I thank you all.
Mr. Viglo Senior or Senior Most, Viglo Junior, I think.
This one is movable if you're not comfortable with it.
Okay, that's fine. The Speaker of Youth Impact Parliament, other senators and invited people, good afternoon. I think it's my pleasure being here. I don't know whether it's going to be senior Viglo, because if you have senior most, you have the senior and you have the junior most. Joshua, through the invitation over a month ago, that I should be here and share some few thoughts with the Youth Impact Parliament. So I gladly accepted the invitation and cleared the calendar to be here this afternoon. So it's my pleasure being here and share few thoughts with you together. And I want to thank the one who introduced me for going beyond what I know about myself and others. What I know about myself is I was a geography teacher, a social studies teacher, and a French teacher in Kitasco for 10 beautiful years, after which I left for private enterprise in Benin Republic, where I've been for the past 8 years. So I think I'm just going to be free and have a frank discussion with you tonight, so that our coming here will be beneficial to all of us. I don't want to be so diplomatic in anything. It's just going to be in a conversational manner. So as you have the topic already there, forging your destiny in the midst of uncertainty, very well captured. I love the forging. I think it's coming from a Latin word which means to mold, to shape, and probably to bring to form what your future would be in the midst of this crisis we are all going through these days, these years, these decades. So basically, I want to talk to you about two important strategy topics that have been in the literature for some time now. And they are two small acronyms called VUCA, VUCA, and BANI, BANI. So these are the two acronyms I'm going to play around and lead a conversation this afternoon. VUCA, VUCA, and BANI, BANI, acronym that stands for some words that we're going to explain later. So I titled my discussion VUCA and BANI, what the youth must know in a rapidly changing world. What the youth must know in a rapidly changing world. So that's how I want to start the discussion with you. I don't want to go back into distant history, but just be as in the recent few years. So the year 2020 marked a significant point in the history of the world with the advent of the COVID-19, which has shaken the whole world and shifted everything out of gear. And we are all aware of that. It's just about 5 years ago. So I think it's still fresh in our mind. And that year, everything was going on as planned. Businesses, nations, organizations had beautiful plans. But the advent of COVID-19, actually which began somewhere around November, December in China, and Wuhan in China, and the first case being seen in Ghana around 12th March 2020, and bringing the whole world to a standstill by the middle of the year 2020. Every plan, every organization, every institution has to re-look at what they plan for the year, because a certain unforeseen circumstance happened, a certain uncertainty happened. So the world became totally at a standstill. So what is VUCA and what is BANI? Let's take VUCA first and look at it. VUCA is an acronym that became popular around the post-Cold War. Some of us are young to those terminologies. This is the war between USSR and USA. So it's a war that was silently waged. It was an ideological war. Not Russia as we know it today. It was the United Socialist and Soviet Union then, Republic then, and the United States. So there were wars about ideology. So they fought it and in a quiet manner. So it was called the Cold War. I think you can read about it. Mr. Viglosinомos is here. I think he knows much about that. So after that war, the term VUCA became popular. And what does VUCA stand for? It's an acronym made of 4 letters. VUCA. The V stood for or stands for volatility. The word became volatile just after the Cold War. The world became uncertain. So there were a lot of uncertainties in the whole system of the world system, market system, business system. Everything became uncertain. And the other one became complex. Complexity here and there in almost every human endeavor. Complex situations started happening because of the Cold War. And the last thing is ambiguity. The world became ambiguous, unpredictable, and unclear what the future will look like. So tonight I want to share a few things and how we as young men and women today can glean some pieces of lesson from these global management and leadership theories. And these things have found their ways now in management, in business, in social organization, and in enterprise. Yeah. So I'll take them one after the other and share a few perspectives around them. So, volatility. Just after the Cold War, unstable situations started occurring in the world of business because the world became a little bit unstable. The war wasn't waged militarily, but in ideologies. And from that time, you see that the post-Cold War became a war about trade and business. So what happened is that these unstable situations led to what we call volatility, price, inflations, and others. Those environments changed. Industrial players, like the big players in industries, started having which market to dominate and which not to dominate. So there is this market dominance that became the order of the day between the United States and USSR. It became prominent after the collapse of the Berlin Wall around the 90s, and when USSR started balkanizing, they became republic on their own rather than being USSR as a unit. So the world was not stable thereafter, and things were never same after the post-Cold War. The next thing I want us to look at is the uncertainty, the U in the VUCA world. Now, the world became unpredictable. Instead of thinking about cause and effects, this is how we used to do it, and predict outcomes. Things were never same again after the post-war. So this uncertainty was seen in almost everything that the world was going through. The global environment for business, for enterprise, for trade, for commerce, everything shifted out of gear. Now, one noticeable experience is what? New market development, because the world is no longer linear. People must understand how different geographical locations play their role. So businesses need to understand geographic location, not just producing for the market. You needed to know the taste of people, the preferences of people in different geographical locations across the world. So it demanded a lot of research, a lot of leading and cutting edge knowledge in order to penetrate new markets. The next thing in the VUCA acronym is what you call complexity. The C is complexity. The world became complex, very unpredictable. Big influences were coming in. It was just impossible to just play around the traditional knowledge. So new fields of research emerged, and people must understand what other people in other geographic locations were doing. So market research became prominent, and people needed to do. You need to understand various cultures, various geographies, and various tastes and preferences of people in various locations. So the last thing I want us to look at under the first acronym VUCA is ambiguity. The word never became clear again. Predictions were no longer yielding the result needed. So new forms of research were needed in order to understand what people's tastes and preferences are and what the future will look like. So basically, that's about the acronym VUCA. But as I said, it was a military post-war term, but it found its way into the global, the business, the industry, and the commerce field. Now, how did people take advantage of that? By changing perspectives, by changing the traditional ways of doing things. So as young men who are entering into business, into global enterprise, we need to understand that perspectives have changed and people's ways of thinking are changing rapidly. The world is no longer as it used to be. The world has moved on and perspectives have changed over time. So we need to do real exploration, we need to research, we need to study trends, global trends, before we launch into business. As we were coming, or as John spoke me earlier, we were having some just free discussion, and I was telling him that today, before you establish a business, you need to do a lot of market research. Else, you establish a business but will not get the right customers to patronize your business. So it is with any other thing you want to do. So in management today, leaders in industries are using some of these things to make their team strong and to make their team very, very knowledgeable in order to go through this volatile system, this ambiguous system, this uncertain system, and this complex system we are in now. So this will lead me to the second aspect of the discussion, which is the BANI. BANI. Quite recently, there was this American actor, a futurist called Jermaine Casio, Casio. Actually, he appeared in a lot of, he wrote a lot of things about the future of the world. He's a futurist. He thinks future. He thinks what are likely to happen in the future. So he brought about this thing called BANI. So he also put some acronym or some letters together to predict what the future is going to look like. So the 4 letters in the BANI acronym stand for Brittle, anxious, nonlinear, and incomprehensible. So I want to take the time to share a few perspectives about each of these letters and what they stand for, and how we can also, as young men, navigate the uncertain future we are living, or even the uncertain present we're living in, and the uncertain future that lies ahead of us. Now, the word BANI, as I said, stands for brittle, anxious, nonlinear, and incomprehensible. So brittle stands for what? Means what in this term? Things are now fragile, very breakable. You know, I said when COVID came, shortly after that, we had what we call the Russian-Ukraine war. And if you remember very well, these two things became topical in our national life as a people. I don't want to sound political, but people have given real excuses about these two events that occur globally. COVID-19 and Russia-Ukraine war. Today we can even add Israel-Iran war, and we can even put US in bracket. Just within 12 days after Israel released its first missile on Iranian establishment, and Iranian also did a reprisal, for just 12 days, the world was a little bit topsy-turvy. We were shaking a little. What lied ahead, or what lies ahead? A lot of people were thinking about that. If America enters this war, what will be the future of the world? And just after 12 days, we know what happened. Missile rained in Israel as just, and somebody, I was reading something, the fatalities on the ground in Israel when Iran started retaliating or sending reprisal missiles. And we also saw what happened when America came into the scene. Just one night, the war ceased. So these are things that nobody thought in planning for the year 2025. But as soon as it happened, it started shaking things out of place. And when America intervened, if I should put it that way, I would say there was a truce. There was a break, a momentary break between these two countries that were at war. So the world is now fragile, very, very soft, very breakable. So plans, strategies are no longer for the long terms or even the medium terms. An event will shift plans out of place. So as we plan as young men, we need to be considering some of these eventualities that may come and take things out of order. In our days, any market is no longer predictable. Inflation can shake things out of price. Prices of petroleum on a day, OPEC can decide to, lower production and increase the price. it will shake a lot of things out of place, as we know already. When prices of basic things like crude oil on the world market goes up, you know how it affects us. Now, the second word, now the second letter is anxious. We are living in a very anxious world. Nobody knows what's going to happen. So there's a little emotional turbulence in almost everyone and in almost every institution, every nation, and even every business. We are also facing some things like global terrorism. And if I say global terrorism, I'm even far. We are even having African terrorism or West African terrorism. And terror is almost around us. We have seen terror in Cote d'Ivoire, terror in Burkina, terror in Mali, terror in Niger, and in the Sahelian countries. And we were all not safe or secure in those years. But today, there is a little bit respite in all these things. So there is anxiety in the world. Now, what are some of the things driving this anxiety? The gamut of information being released on daily basis. And some of them are just fake news. But once we have uncontrolled media channels, media front, channeling all this in on daily basis, people are becoming very, very anxious about what is going to happen tomorrow, what's going to happen in the near future. Now, as I said already, when the pandemic occurred, you can just imagine the anxiety we all went through. I remember all these protocols, health protocols we need to observe. Social distancing, the wearing of masks, and the avoiding crowding in places, etc., etc. So we all underwent such stress, such anxiety on daily basis, not a year, not two. That situation lasted the whole of 2020, 2021, and somewhere around 2022 before some of the protocols were lifted and we had some sort of respite to go about life. So since then, though the physical COVID went down, the repercussion of that event lingered on till today. I think the whole of these 10 days I haven't been up to date with the news, but I don't know whether I heard something like if there is a new wave of COVID or so last week or this week ending. Yeah, I heard something like that. Yeah, the whole of this week I've been with a researcher along the coast. So, and when it is coming, you know, the protocols will come back and all other things no longer gathering, spacing out, and social distancing, and all this hand washing and sanitary gels and all this in the usage of all this thing will come in, and our lives will no longer going to be same, and we're going to experience again what we used to call the new normal. The new normal. It's not normal, but we will have to undergo it. Yeah, so many global events also are keeping us anxious these days. One topical one is climate change. They are telling us that if we don't lower the degree to 1 or 1.5 in the global warming, then the repercussions are going to be high. The Paris Agreement, the COP, I think COP 30 is about to take place also in either Mexico or Cancun. That global platform for global change. This is the 30th one. Every year they gather to do this. But the question is, are we finding solutions? Is the world still anxious about global warming, climate change, and its impact on our health, on agriculture, on any other human aspect? So the world is not really safe, really secure. We still have a lot to battle with. Not only that, the current or the latest war, people are terming it is, if America enters the war, it's likely to be a third world war, because Iran has enough ammunition to counter American threat and the rest. And other allies were gathering, like Russia or China, and to support Iran. And so it started sending some waves of anxiety in the entire global system. So if things like that are happening, I don't think it creates the enabling environment for people to think and think into the future. So future is no longer predictable, and our present situation is also not very well. And today there is the issue of transitioning from fossil fuel into green energy. And we are thinking how feasible it is if they stop total fossil fuel. Where are we going to be getting fuel or energy? People are talking about global. Is Africa ready for some of those things, or is going to be transfer of technology again to us? So some of us, we are always anxious when we hear things like the energy transition, moving from fossil fuel to renewable energy and green energy. So these terminologies around us are not keeping some of us safe mentally. Is it a what somebody is doing on us, a prank the global players are playing on us? And they say if you don't exploit your oil reserve quickly, by 2040 they become obsolete. They become how do you call it, something assets, and nobody is going to drill oil again beyond 2040. So quickly you have to do it, etc., etc. So nations are very, very anxious. Leaders of nations are very, very anxious about how to go about their plans and their policies. Now, the last thing I want to talk about under BANI before we run it up with what should we do as young men and women is the incomprehensive nature of the world now. The world has become unpredictable. A lot of predictions are failing. Global prediction, all this growth, business growth, GDP growth, inflation growth, all these are not coming true. They are not coming to reality. So we seem not to understand a lot of things happening around us. So we are living in a very fragile environment, a very anxious environment. The world is no longer linear. The non-linearity of the world. When we say non-linear, traditional thinking, cause, effect, action, we can predict to a higher percentage the outcome of things. But today, no, even 50-50 is not there. You predict things, you plan things, it doesn't happen. If you remember during COVID, almost some of the growth, national GDP growth of countries were negative. But those countries predicted the red budget and predicted growth beyond a certain percentage. But truly speaking, some have not recovered from such low growth rate till now. So the world has become very incomprehensible. Now, another thing I want to mention here is the way we think. If you continue thinking the traditional way, then in a VUCA and a BANI world, we are going to be missing on prediction, missing on target, missing on projected outcomes. So there is a need for real creative thinking, solution thinking, innovative thinking. So we need to understand the situation we're in as a nation, as an institution, as an organization, as a business. So this type of thinking need to be done. I always tell some of my friends, they say thinking outside the box. No, we haven't even thought within the box yet. You are talking about thinking outside the box? Yes. So we need to be gathering think tank, people with creative ideas who could just look at trends, events to the short term and predict. As for the medium term, 3 years, 4 years, if you are planning now, predicting things, growth into 3 years, an event could just derail everything. A global event, even a national event. I remember Ebola. When Ebola came here, we are just witness about that. I think 2014, 2013, 2014 or so. Those last years of Mahama regime 1. When Ebola came here, a lot of things were out of gear because we were not in readiness for those things. So we needed to work and work well. But I remember one event that I was putting a draft together is, I think a lot of you may not remember, but I know the senior most will remember. There was a mine collapse, I think in either Peru or Chile. That's the name, Chile. There was a mine collapse around 2011, 2012. About 40 or so miners were trapped in a mine pit in Chile. You know, quickly they realized that they were not dead. The pit did not collapse on them. But there was a deep cave-in that blocked all entrance to them. So what they did is to gather brains from around the world. They were about 1.5 kilometers below the earth. I remember very well, I downloaded a lot of information on that. There was no device that could be used at that time to bring these 40 miners up. But what they realized is that they sent some vibration and the rest and realized that there was life. They were still living, but the days were passing. So they gathered brains from NASA, National Aeronautic and Space Administration in the United States. They gathered some scientists from Israel, from America, from Europe, and quickly they thought about how to get a hole to reach them safely, send devices in which one person could mount, and they will pull this device up. That device never existed before that time. So it was like a capsule. So they thought, they brought NASA because they used to go to the moon, and the astronauts used to have a certain technology based on that, how they live there. And when they put this thing together, I think in the, I can't recollect, but in a few days, they were able to come together with the device. And they did a barrowing, that is the barrel, a hole in, and descended this device into them. I hope after that you can Google it. The mine collapsed in Chile or so. And that device was able to go and pick the people one at a time up. And they were able to save all the 40 or so miners. I think it was a national something. It was covered daily on the national media. So those are the things that come in and change our perspective about life. Now, let's come to the way forward. Having used these two acronyms to tell us about the world in which we live, the volatility in the world today, the VUCA, we have volatility, we have uncertainty, we have the complexity, and we have the ambiguity. In BANI, we have the brittleness of issues, we have the anxiety that we are living in, we have the nonlinear system now. It's no longer cause and effect or reaction and action and reaction. It's now a total thinking. It's up and down, it's up and down, it's crest and trough that we're living in now, not a linear line. And we are also living in a world that is very incomprehensible. A lot of things are no longer in the purview. So the demand is that we need to start thinking and thinking, if not inside a box, then outside the box. Now, so for future leaders like us who are here this afternoon, how do we overcome some of these things that are daily occurrences now? Volatility, ambiguity, and all these things that we go through now. How do we prepare ourselves for the days and the years ahead. We must constantly improve our skills. That has been my GC. Canning, I call it canning. CANEI. Constantly and never ending improvement. That's what should be our daily guide. Constantly improving, constantly adding knowledge to our baggage of knowledge. I have talked to people who don't belong to our generation. I must be frank here. They are already old. Their knowledge is archaic. Their knowledge doesn't fit the day we're living in. Yeah, so what do we do in order to survive? I think Jones mentioned it. Said he's a salaried worker, but his business, small business, had more. I was a teacher for 10 years. He mentioned it. I taught him geography. I didn't teach Joshua, but he was in school when I was a teacher in Kitasco. What I remember about Joshua is his skills in playing guitar during Vespers, Sunday evening. And Jones is a drummer, right? He used to sit on the Sunday Vespers, right? Yeah. So I can remember how Joshua used to stand and play the guitar. He used to put one of his legs forward like this. He locks his this thing like this, and that's his position. I always admire the way he used. I say, I miss this thing while growing up. I couldn't play any of the musical instrument. You see, yeah. So we must constantly improve, add skills as young men. Young men should not just be using the internet for play or for video and the rest. We should use it to school ourselves. So after teaching for 10 years, I decided to throw in the towel, and I went to Benin for 7 years to do business. I have been the CEO of UCMAS. How many of you know UCMAS? The mental arithmetic that children do. Yes, I obtained the franchise agreement in Ghana, Accra here, and I took it to Benin Republic. I became the national director of UCMAS in Benin. I introduced UCMAS to the Benin concept. I met the Minister of Education. After I talked to him for just 22 minutes, he marveled that there is something like that in the world. I met all the directors of education, and I put the program before them. So for the past 8 years, I've been running UCMAS in Benin Republic. But not that. I came back. I normally come for holidays. And when I saw tourism thriving in Benin Republic, I came quickly and I registered as a tour guide, a licensed tour guide. So I take tour of people to Togo, to Benin, and in Ghana. So I decided to diversify myself in various areas. So the word we need multitasking people, we need multi-skilled people to go and face the uncertain, the very, very non-linear future we live in. So how do we do it? Ability to explore and focus on our strengths as young men. We need to start discovering what we have and what use we can make of what we have. The ability to explore and focus on our strength. Me, I know I can multitask, so I decided to go doing that. We need cooperation with others, with practical solutions. It's no longer book, it's no longer theory, it's not practical aspect. So we need to do cooperation, partnership, networking with others of same field. The next thing, we need clear visions now. The world is unpredictable, but with a clear vision, we can navigate into the future. When the uncertainties happen, we will be able to face them and take them as opportunities rather than challenges that we will face into the future. Now, we need to be creative thinking. We need to be creative now. It's no longer the traditional way of thinking. We need to bring in new, novel things, new ideas. When you bring them out, people try to question them. But today they are working. I've been talking about coastal erosion for the past 12 or 13 years. We allow the sea to wear away our coast until the entire coast is gone. Now, before we want to solve it. As a geographer who did coastal geomorphology, I know our coasts are going to be worn away in the not too distant future. And when I was crying, people say, oh, you crying wolf. Today, the whole of Salakope, Agaveji no longer there. Over 300, 400 meters. We could have prevented that long ago. I saw it and I thought through. and I have written a lot about it. That if you don't do anything, our coast will go. Puvema is gone. Atiteti is gone into the sea. I knew those communities in 2010, 2011, 2012. When I go there now, the Google Map location tells me that those places are deep into the sea. So we need to start thinking outside the box. The next thing, we need to learn to deal with data. Data is key. Just yesterday, I finished helping one researcher to come and collect data on our coast. So we need data, scientific data, to be able to predict some of these things. The next thing is intelligent use of technology. Technology has come to stay. We need to know what it is, how to make full use and good use of it in modern times. We shouldn't use it to our detriment or to our harm. We should use it as a tool that can help us, solve the uncertainty and the ambiguity of life today. The next thing is innovation and co-production. You can't do it alone. You need to come together as a group, co-create things, co-create solutions, co-create models, co-create what? Paradigms that you can implement in uncertain world. The next and last thing I want to share here is flexibility and ability to adapt. When you have some rigid plan in place and the world has changed, things have moved out of place, and you are still holding on to those things, you may not be able to navigate through. You may not be able to sail through and sail through successfully. So we need to be flexible in our plans. We need to be flexible in our predictions and in future outcomes that we want to get from what we do. If you put all these things together, then as young men and women, we will be able to forge our destiny, whether personal destiny, business destiny, or even, why not, our professional destiny. In the midst of uncertainty of the future, we'll be able to do something that will last beyond us. So in short, these are some of the ideas I want to run with you, that we are living in very volatile world, very ambiguous world, very complex world, and very uncertain world. So do we have what it will take us to navigate through this world we're living in today? It will take exploration. It will take real hunger for new knowledge to be able to do that. On this note, I want to thank you for the opportunity. God bless you.